Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hello, welcome to CES News. I'm your news anchor today. My name is Sylvia. Today we'll be talking about the economic trends happening in the United Kingdom. As you may all know, the UK economy has been shrinking. Over the last year and a half, the economy fluctuated between quarters of growth and contraction. In the final 3 months of last year, the economy also shrank by 0.3%, meaning the UK is back in recession. There are concerns that the UK economy will shrink again in the second quarter of the year. We have 3 experts here with us today to talk about the inflation rate, GDP, and the employment rate. Hello, welcome our 3 guests for today.
Hello.
Welcome, Sammy. Welcome, Pearl. And welcome, Jennifer. Hello, it's a pleasure meeting all 3 of you. First here, we have Pearl, the inflation rate expert. Then we have Jennifer, talking about the GDP in the UK, and Nasi Sam discussing the employment rate. So, Pearl, what exactly is inflation?
Well, inflation is best defined as a sustained increase in the general price level, leading to a fall in the purchasing power of value of money.
So what is happening with the inflation rate in the UK?
Looking at the graph, the greatest falls in the value of money came during the late 1970s and again in the late 1980s, when there was acceleration in the rate of inflation in the UK. In contrast, the last 15 years have since much lower rates of inflation, and as a result, money has value better.
That's right. Oh, so how is the inflation rate measured?
The rate of inflation is measured by the annual percentage change in the level of consumer prices. The British government has set an inflation target of 2% using the Consumer Price Index. It is the job of the Bank of Canada of England to set interest rates so that AD is controlled and the inflation target is reached. Since the Bank of England was made independent, inflation has stayed comfortably within target range.
Okay, what is currently happening with the inflation rate at this moment?
There has been a fall in the inflation rate all over the world, including UK, over the past 15 years. There also has been price deflation in the whole economy, but for items such as clothing, household equipment, and computers. Rapid advances in technology help to explain, for example, the sharp fall in the prices of state-of-art digital cameras and television, which has made the digital age accessible to millions of consumers, which can be explained in this graph. Annual rate was last lower in December 2009 when it was 2.9%, although the 3.0% was equal in February 2010. The CPI stands at 1229.9 in April 2010 based on 2005. Air transport of sales of alcohol, clothing and sea transport were the most significant drivers behind the decrease in annual inflation between March and April. The largest upward pressures to change the CPI annual inflation between March and April came from the operations of personal transport equipment, restaurants and hotels. The CPI fell to 4.2% in December, down from 4.8% in November. Retail prices index inflation, including mortgages, interest payments, fell to 4.8% from 5.2%. It also backs the Bank of England's predictions that inflation will be 2% by late 2012. Inflation is neither good nor bad, as long as the governing body can predict what it will be. In judging the performance of the UK's current inflation rates, you need to compare them to past increases. If the inflation gradually increases from year to year, then it is assumed to be the norm of the economy.
Alright, thank you. We'll be able to continue discussing the UK trends happening in the economy after this commercial break.
If there's anything that you want, if there's anything I can do, just call on me and I'll send it along with love from me to you. I got everything that you want, like a heartbeat so true. Just call on me and I'll send it along with love from me to you, to you.
Welcome back. Next, we will go to Jennifer, who will talk about the GDP.
The economy of the United Kingdom is the 7th largest in the world, measured by nominal GDP, measured to be about $2,481 billion as of 2011. This graph is in the British pounds which roughly equals to $2,400 US. Historically, from 1960 until 2010, the United Kingdom's average GDP was $862 billion, reaching a high of $2,810 billion in December of 2007 and a low of $72 billion in December of 1960. After 1992, the UK economy and average household income enjoyed a period of unbroken growth.
Okay, what is the graph like currently?
Here's a closer look at the GDP of the last decade or so. As you can see, in December of 2007, the GDP reached its highest peak, but in 2008, the global financial crisis plunged the UK into the longest and deepest recession since comparable records began in the 1950s. More than 1 million people lost their jobs as businesses from shops to manufacturers and banks either closed or laid off staff. Sharply declining home prices, high consumer debt, and the global economy slowdown compounded Britain's economy problem, pushing the economy into a recession in the latter half of 2008. This prompted the Labour government to implement a number of measures to stimulate the economy and stabilize the financial markets. These include nationalizing parts of the banking system, temporarily cutting taxes, suspending public sector borrowing rules, and moving forward public spending on capital projects. The recession ended in the middle of 2009 as the economy began to grow. However, other economists say that the UK has not experienced a bounce back as big as the one seen in the recessions in the 1980s and 1990s.
That's unfortunate. How does this affect the GDP growth rate?
As you can see on the GDP annual growth rate graph, the recession caused the growth rate to drop by 7%. When the economy began to grow, the percentage of the GDP went up 10%. As of 2011, the real GDP growth rate, with the effect of inflation removed, is 1.1% and is 182 compared to a closer look at the growth rate from quarter 1 of 2008. The GDP in the United Kingdom declined 0.2% in the second quarter of 2011 over the previous quarter. If this figure does not improve upwards, the UK will be plunged back down into recession.
Alright, Jennifer, what are some of the causes of the GDP fluctuation?
All countries experience business cycles, sometimes known as trade cycles, where the growth rate of production, incomes, and spending fluctuates over a period of time. The length and instability of each of these cycles tend to change over partly because the structure of the economy evolves. Trading with other economies also causes GDP to fluctuate. If an economy imports more than it exports, then they will have a lower GDP, because while goods are being consumed, they're not being produced. In contrast, if an economy exports more than it imports, it will have a higher GDP because it will be producing more goods than people are capable of consuming. Other factors include the stock cycle, strong consumer spending, government consumption, and weak
Thank you. We'll be right back with the employment rates of the UK after this commercial.
Drink your milk, kids.
I don't want milk. Milk's for babies.
Yeah, babies.
Oh, yeah? Well, I happen to know that milk helps build strong bones. So drink up.
Well, Mr. Miller told me he never drinks milk. Look at him.
Yeah.
Hi, kids.
Oh, that's not good.